This is One Man's Family. One Man's Family is dedicated to the mothers and fathers of the younger generation and to their bewildering offspring. Today, transcribed, we present Chapter 6, Book 71, entitled Father Barber Predicts the Worst. It's very, very early in the morning at the family home in Seacliff, San Francisco, and grim anxiety hangs over the library where Father Barber sits with Nicholas and Claudia Lacey waiting some word from Paul. Waiting some word that will give some inkling of what has become of 16-year-old Joan and her young friend Ken Arthur. All the rest of the family is at the Sky Ranch, and utterly unaware of the fact that Joan went riding last night, and now at 6 o'clock the next morning still has not returned. At 4 a.m., Paul felt it necessary to call Nicky and Claudia secretly and bring them down from the ranch. Before they arrived, he dashed out on the possible clue. And now, on arrival, there is nothing to do but sit with Father Barber and wait.
Nicky? Dad?
Yes, Claudia?
I've got some coffee ready. You and Dad want to come in here and have it in the kitchen?
Right-o. Come along, Father Barber. Be good for you to get a good hot cup of coffee.
I thought it would be simpler just to have it here on the kitchen table.
Don't really feel as if I wanted anything.
Now sit down, Dad. This will make you feel better.
Yes.
Sit down, Nicky.
Right-o.
Take your arm off the table, Dad. This is steaming hot.
Smells wonderful.
I wish you'd let me fix your little breakfast, Dad.
No, don't even feel like drinking this.
Oh, you drink it. Now hold your cup, Nicky.
Thank you.
Beginning to get light out.
There was a bright moon all the way in from the Sky Ranch.
Paul didn't say when he was coming home when he called?
Yes, he's on his way.
Yes, and we don't know any more than we did.
Well, he did say the possibility of an accident to Joan was almost certainly eliminated, Father Barber.
Well, how would he know that?
Every emergency hospital in the San Francisco Bay Area has been covered by the police. And that one John Doe case, I think that's what he called it.
Huh? John Doe case?
Maybe I got it wrong over the phone.
No, that's quite right, my dear. Anyone brought into the emergency with no identification is booked as a John Doe case until he's identified.
And that's what Paul went down to see about, some case of that kind?
Yes, Dad. Let's not talk about it.
Yes.
Won't you drink a little more coffee, Dad?
No more. My stomach doesn't seem to be very receptive.
I know. Try not to worry.
He had very little sleep.
Very wakeful. It seemed as if someone went up and down the hall every half hour or so.
Paul, I guess.
I wanted to get up, but Paul had made it clear to me that he didn't want me interfering with him and Joan, so I restrained myself. I assumed that she was late getting in, and I thought I'd let them work it out in their own way.
Paul probably hasn't had any sleep at all.
Brutal.
I don't want him to feel responsible.
Well, how can he help but feel that he is? If he hadn't talked you into this arrangement, the whole thing would never have happened. No, Claudia, I said from the very beginning that no good would come out of it.
Now, Dad, we're not going to go into that again.
Yes. How soon do you think we should notify your mother and the rest of them up at Skyland?
Notify them of what? What's there to tell?
Easy, Claudia. I suggest we should wait at least until Paul gets here. No use causing a lot of unnecessary anxiety.
Yes. More bad news.
I'm hanging on to the thought that it isn't bad news.
Stout girl.
Now you know, Claudia, how your family felt that night 17 years ago when you eloped to Reno with Johnny Roberts.
Dad, you don't think... You're not suggesting...
How do I know what to think?
Oh, listen, what's that?
That was the front door. Paul?
That you, Paul?
Yes, Nicky? Huh?
We're in the kitchen.
All right. You're right in.
He sounds tired.
Yeah.
Now, please don't say anything to upset him any more than he is, Dad. It won't do any good, and we... Oh, hello, Paul, dear. Come on and have a cup of coffee.
Oh, thanks, Claudia. I think I could use one, all right. Hi, Dan.
Oh,
Well, sit down, Paul. Must be pretty well pegged out.
Here, Paul, drink this. I hope it's hot enough.
Oh, fine, thanks.
no further news, I suppose?
No, Dan. Oh, yes, I finally got hold of Mary Smith's phone number. The girl who saw Joan and Ken Arthur last. Talked to her on the phone.
The girl Joan had dinner with last night.
Yeah.
Nothing there?
Got her out of bed. She knew nothing. Said that Ken had picked Joan up in his car around 8:30 or so, and she understood they were going for a little drive, and then Ken was going to bring Joan home.
Well, isn't that exactly what Ken gave you to understand they were going to do when you talked to him on the phone last night?
That's right. He called Ken's mother again, too.
She'd had no word from the boy. Nothing.
You know of what this reminds, Dad?
Claudia.
No, what?
My elopement with Johnny Roberts.
Well, same ages and same worries.
Oh,
That's
Dad.
not true. I was 18. Joan's just past 16.
Oh, forget it. It hasn't happened. Nevertheless, Claudia, want you and Nicky to know how dreadfully sorry I am that I've brought all this anxiety to you.
Oh, look here, old man. You've brought on nothing.
Paul, we know how much you love Joan.
Quite wonderfully unselfish.
Yes, Paul. Whatever this is, Nicky and I believe you came the closest of any of us to reaching Joan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's true, Dad, no matter what. I know sincerely that Paul was on the right track.
Did I say anything?
Your grunts are so eloquent.
Paul, at least the police are working on this, aren't they? Descriptions of the pair, the boy's car number, highway patrolman notified. Somebody's doing something, isn't he?
Yes, from the beginning, Dad.
Wait, Paul.
What?
I thought I heard the phone.
Oh, it is. Please wait here. I'll get it. Hello. This is Barbara. Oh, yes, Lieutenant. Huh? You found the car? Uh-huh. Yeah. I see. Oh. That's all? Yeah. Yeah, I'll go right down. Thank you, Lieutenant. Right. Nicky.
Yes, Paul. Coming.
Paul, who was it?
It's all right, Claude. I'll be with you in a minute.
What is it, Paul?
Listen, Nicky. They found Ken's car undamaged parked down at Fleischacker Pool at the beach.
Jove. All right. No sign of Joan or the boy?
Keep this much from Claudia. They found Joan and Ken's clothes in lockers at the Fleischacker swimming pool.
What's this? You mean they've vanished in a pair of bathing suits?
They're searching the beach now. There's a tunnel, running under the highway from the pool to the beach.
Yes, I know.
They might have gone from the pool out to swim in the ocean.
Oh, Jove, now what?
I don't know. We've got to get out there. Or do you want to stay with Dad and Claudia?
Don't you think I should?
Paul, I simply can't stand it. What are you talking
Oh,
about?
why not, children? What is it?
Was it something about Joan?
Yes, old girl. It was about Joan.
Well, good heavens, man, is she all right?
They found Ken's car parked down by Fleischacker Pool at the beach.
That's all? No sign of Joan?
I told you, Paul, I told you, flying in the face of from the beginning.
Even with Father Barber away in Seacliff, the hammock at Sky Ranch is continually occupied. When Henry selected the two madrone trees on the lawn as the place to spend his summer visits, he had an eye to beauty, of course. The view from the hammock is spectacularly lovely, but also he foresaw that this particular spot would offer a sanctuary. It's far enough off the beaten path to the creek and the stables so that what he calls the vibrant voices of the children are heard from a distance, if at all. On this cool and pleasant Saturday, the Sky Ranch contingent, unaware of the situation at the family home in Seacliff, is making the most of their holiday. At the moment, Cliff has taken over the hammock, and Jack, coming down from the house with books and magazines under his arms, finds him there and tries to conceal his disappointment.
Oh, hi, Cliff. Quite a spot, isn't it?
You wanted it, the hammock, huh, Jack?
Well, seen from the house, there's always a sag in the hammock, whether anybody's in it or not. Never mind. No, stay there.
I wasn't going to get up. Just getting comfortable.
Oh, pardon me. I thought you were going to be polite.
You know me better than that. Sit down.
You want a magazine? I got a lot of them.
No, this is my day for thinking. Golly, it's quiet, isn't it? Except for the birds. You have your swim?
Yeah, with Betty and 3 of my sextet daughters. Dan and Hazel hightailed it into Redwood City for something or other.
Oh, yeah?
Big mystery.
Place is lousy with mysteries this morning. What's this about Nicky and Claudia?
Claudia couldn't sleep, I guess. There was a note on the breakfast table. Hey, look at this. Here's a family reunion with 138 people.
Wow, they got the Barber clan skinned all hollow.
Look at this beaten-up little husband and father. See? This one. He's got 5 daughters.
He's a piker.
Yeah, I ought to get my picture in the magazines. Young lawyer, father of 6 daughters, wonders where his next gigantic fee is coming from.
How is it, Vince?
It's all right. It's gotta be. See this mark on my forehead? That's from the grindstone. I keep my whole face down on it. I brought work up here with me. Feel guilty when I take an hour off.
Let's see, with 6 daughters, say when they grow up and get married, they have 3 children each. That's 6 times 3, 18 grandchildren. You'll get your picture in a magazine someday, fella. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. They're cute gals, folks. They wrap themselves around your heart, one by one.
Oh, I know. I look at Andy and I see in him something of Ann, something of myself, something of Dad, Mom, and something that's individual and his own. And the whole mystery of life sweeps over me. It's great stuff, Jack. Never a dull moment. Somebody drive in?
Yeah, Dan and Hazel, back from Redwood City.
Wonder what they went there for.
I asked them point blank and got a swell answer.
What?
Mind my own business.
They aren't under the impression, surely, that it's possible to keep a secret in this family.
You work on it. I got the cold and fishy eye. Hey, Dan, Hazel, come on down. What?
What'd they say?
I couldn't hear it. Now, if you want a mystery to mull over, what the dickens made Claudia so restless she and Nicky had to dig out of here in the middle of the night?
How do you know it was the middle of the night?
It must have been. I got up early, around 5, came down for some coffee, and there was the note.
What did it say?
Oh, something about Claudia was restless. Nicky was taking her to San Francisco for a couple of days. What's funny?
Oh, I see why Dad likes this hammock. You can lie here and watch the blue summer sky and pick up all the family gossip without moving a muscle. The fewer details you get, the more interesting it is. It's like a suspense novel.
You call me, Jack?
Hi, Dan. Come on down.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for the invite.
We were wondering what you went to Redwood City for.
Oh, curious, huh?
Yeah, we were hoping you or Hazel would come down and tell us all about it.
Is that so? Well, how do you feel, Cliff?
Fine, Dan, now that you're changing the subject.
Yeah, you got a burn yesterday. Where'd you go for your picnic?
Smooth article, isn't he, Cliff?
Didn't you hear my question?
What Hazel and I did in Redwood City, gentlemen, is top secret.
You mean not even the Senate Quiz Committee knows it?
Nobody knows it. Nobody's ever going to know it. And I don't want any more prying, my boy, if you please.
Kind of a tough guy, isn't he?
You know what Dad said when Daniel here joined the family, Cliff?
I'm afraid that's one of the things I don't remember.
Well, Dad finally said. He put up the usual resistance in the beginning, of course.
Sure.
And then he decided, when it was a foregone conclusion anyway, that Hazel would marry him.
Oh, yeah?
Well, he finally said he liked the cut of Dan's jaw. He said nobody will ever push that man around, and nobody ever has.
When'd your father say that?
Oh, at the last minute, when he was getting on the bandwagon. You should have heard the family councils, Dan.
You know, I've been in the family long enough now, Cliff, to have a pretty good idea what went on. Who is this Daniel Murray, after all, eh? What do we really know about him, huh? Yes. Are you sure he'll be kind to Margaret and Pinky and Hank? Yes. What guarantee?
Hey, you gotta do that at dinner sometime.
Oh, no. Your father's a magnificent character. Really he is, and I mean that. And I've grown to love him. That's completely on the level. But I don't think he's the man to take a joke on himself.
Hey, here comes Hazel. Hey, Hazel, hurry up.
Jack, cut it out.
Oh, that's wonderful. The man's an actor.
What's all this?
Have you ever heard Dan do his imitation of Dad?
An imitation of Father?
Look, I wish I hadn't. Forget it. And I think I'll go up, change my clothes, and go for a ride.
Oh, hey, Dan, now Hazel thinks it was something more than it was.
Are you people sitting here criticizing the head of the house of Barber, lying in his own private hammock and making fun of him?
I knew it. You see, Jack?
You knew what, Dan?
Oh, Hazel, it was a perfectly innocent imitation of Dad's tone of voice, that's all. You got him down to perfection.
It's a mistake for a son-in-law to imitate his father-in-law. I knew it at the time.
Wait till Mom hears it.
Oh, nobody's going to hear it. Well, anyone want to go riding with me?
Not me. I got the hammock. What's more, I plan to keep it. Get Hank or Margaret.
Hazel?
No, thanks, Dan. Dan, has Father said something to you? Has he been sharp or anything?
Believe me, my dear, no. Now, that's enough of that. It was nothing whatever, really. See you later.
Hey, Dan, wait. I got 40 minutes before I go back to work. I'll change, too. I'll see you later, kids.
Father and Dan haven't had trouble, have they, Cliff?
Oh, of course not. Don't make something of it, Hazel. Dan was embarrassed, that's all. He didn't expect to be such a hit. Hey, I'll make a deal with you.
What?
I'll tell you exactly what we were talking about, word for word, if you'll tell me what you and Dan were doing in Redwood City.
I can't.
Why not?
I wouldn't mind telling, Cliff. Nothing to make a big secret about, but Dan got me to promise.
Oh?
Has something to do with Pinky. And it's certainly nothing to be ashamed of. It's just that Dan made such a point of having Pinky stand on his own 2 feet this summer, as long as he insisted on going to work. Oh, dear, I can tell by the look on your face I've already said too much.
I said it once and I say it again. No wonder Dad likes this hammock. Lying here's better than reading a whodunit. You get a little clue here and another there. You mean Dan softened up on Pinky?
I don't mean anything.
You sent Pinky airplane tickets, I bet, to come home, huh? Am I right?
I'm not talking.
You finally decided the looking was too tough for him, so you sent him dope.
Don't start a rumor like that, Cliff, because it isn't true. No.
Cold, huh?
Cold.
Will you tell me when I'm warm?
I won't tell you anything. I've said too much already. And, Cliff, I want to know why Dan was imitating Father.
Oh, no, you don't. I offered you a first-rate proposition, and you can take it or leave it.
I'll have to leave it, then. Oh, please don't quote a word I've said. Promise?
Okay, but I'm getting curiouser and curiouser.
You know, I often try to see this family from Dan's point of view. It's pretty hard for a son-in-law sometimes, I think. For Dan and Nicky. It's especially hard for Dan. Nicky has the Sky Ranch, and we all use it as if it were our own. But Dan, well, if he weren't a person of real size and generosity and intelligence, oh, he couldn't have entered into the family life the way he has. He's a nice person, Cliff.
I like him. Must have been a shock to him when I first came out of the hospital and didn't know him, expecting to find Bill Herbert still married to
Well,
you.
of course it was. Isn't anything coming back to you at all, Cliff, these whole 11 years?
Oh, funny things happen. A minute ago when Dan was sitting there, I had a sort of stirring of memory. It was somewhere else. There were mountains and a gigantic waterfall, and I felt terribly worried.
Mountains, waterfall, worry.
Does that make any sense to you?
No. Oh, we went to Montana last summer.
We did.
Oh, don't you know about that yet? Nicky and Claudia bought a ranch up near the Canadian border.
Well, for God's sakes, what for?
Oh, it's beautiful. Fishing and hunting and really in the last wilderness of this country.
Would you say the family went there and that I went there?
Yes. You have no memory of it?
No, Hazel, nothing.
Try to think. Montana, last summer, Montana.
That's enough.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. Now, I don't know why I said that. I shouldn't have spoken that way.
Oh, that's all right, Cliff.
Montana.
Nicky's other ranch.
Nicky's other ranch. Nicky's... Oh, it's no good. Doesn't mean a thing. Let's talk about something else.
Why, surely, Cliff.
Yeah, it's doggone disturbing when you can't trust your own memory.
Well, just leave it alone. If it returns, it will. If not, well, what of it?
And there he is.
What's that?
My son Andrew in his motor scooter.
Oh.
Andy. I wish everybody'd make a real effort to call him Andy. Skippy. Phew.
Oh?
A young fellow like that is entitled to a good, sound American name of his own. Anybody who'd let his son grow up with nothing but a nickname. Hi there!
He didn't hear you.
That isn't a motor scooter at all, you know.
It isn't?
No, I should say not. That's a jet-propelled plane, the latest design.
Oh, I see.
Goes over 2,000 miles an hour, and it'll take you to Paris for dinner, if you leave right now.
I haven't the slightest doubt of it. He's a boy with imagination.
Oh, Hazel.
Yes, Cliff?
When you were thinking of marrying Dan, how old were the kids?
Oh, my goodness. That's so far back. Let's see. Hank and Pinky were 12.
Well, what I want to know is, did they resent Dan?
Well, at first, maybe. But when they got to know him, they championed him, Cliff. However many aunts and uncles they have, youngsters still need a father. They were glad when I married Dan.
They said so, or what?
Oh, no. You just have to judge by the way they act.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Well, tell me, if they'd tried to make you think they liked Dan, but really didn't, what would you have done?
Well, that's pretty hard to answer, Cliff. You see, I was sure it'd work. Dan loves children. And we were all good friends by then. You're thinking about Skippy and Roberta Evans, aren't you? Andy, I mean. Andy and Roberta?
Yeah.
Picnic wasn't a great success, huh?
Hardly.
Oh, maybe, Cliff, it wasn't a good idea in the first place.
I know. Paul wondered if it was a good idea, but I'd made a date with Roberta, and I talked it up to Andy. So there we were, a man, a woman, and a little boy, sitting in the sand trying to make conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You know how it is when a boy's resentful. He just says, yes, sir, no, ma'am, and...
Oh, dear.
Oh, he's sorry now about the way things went. He even volunteered to try it again. But that's no good, Hazel. I just wondered what you did when you had the same problem.
Well, if I remember, I didn't hurry it, Cliff.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you're right.
Roberta's a lovely girl. I'm all just crazy about her, and surely...
I hope I'm not interrupting.
Oh, you haven't been riding already, Jack.
No, I'm in trouble. Serious trouble.
What's wrong?
Oh, I brought these magazines down here, and Mom hasn't read any of them. She's been looking for them for over an hour.
Shame on you. Where's Dan?
Waiting for me up at the house.
I'll go up with you.
Now, hold on, I'll go along, too. I'm getting kind of hungry.
Hey, there's something I've been meaning to ask you.
Yes, Dad?
What were you and Dan doing in Redwood City this morning?
Snoopy, isn't he, Cliff?
Yeah, it's disgraceful.
Well, if it is, there's a lot of us in disgrace.
Oh, who else is Snoopy?
Mom and Nicolette and Betty and Hank and Margaret and Ben. Let's see, somebody else.
The triplets?
Yeah, triplets want to know. First words they've ever said, too. Really astonishing. There I was, putting on my riding pants, and all three of them sat up in their cribs and said, "Where the dickens did Aunt Hazel and Uncle Dan go this morning?"
Oh, idiot.
On the level. Said they wouldn't swallow a drop of the noon feeding until they found out.
Oh, why didn't they ask their Uncle Dan?
They did. They yelled downstairs and said...
Oh, no. It's no use, Jack. You might as well give up.
Hazel, how can you and Dan have secrets? Why, my life's an open book.
You'll never find out, Jack. I try to.
Well, I almost know already. How do you like that?
Almost know what?
Hey, where'd you pop from, Dan?
Dan, he says he almost knows why we went to Redwood City this morning.
So?
No, Dan, she didn't tell me. Hank said she got a letter from Pinky and hightailed it out of here. So we think Pinky's coming back.
Well, you're wrong.
Cliff, what do you know about it?
I guess that too, but Hazel says it's wrong. You know something? Maybe it would be a good idea if somebody in this family could have some little sideline that every blessed Tom, Dick, and Harry didn't know all about.
A noble sentiment, Clifford. However, before I go in and prepare something delectable out of the latest gourmet magazine, there's one thing I want to know.
Why Daniel was imitating Dad.
Yes, of course. Well, you're not going to find out, Hazel. Nor you, Clifford. Nor you, Jack. Because Daniel will never be guilty of doing such a thing again. I don't know what in the world he was thinking of, imitating me. The very idea. Yes, really. Are you satisfied, my love?
Oh, Dan, you're wonderful.
Come on, Jack. We're going to ride. Let's ride. Huh?
Now, take these magazines into Mont Cliff, will you?
Sure. See you later, Hazel.
Yes, dear. Have a good ride.
Yeah, that's what it was, just fooling.
Of course.
That's swell guy. I like him.
Uh-huh.
Say, Hazel.
Yes, Cliff?
Darn it, I keep forgetting. Will you answer one important question for me?
Why, of course, Cliff.
What were you and Dan doing in Redwood City this morning?
Oh.
Okay. I'll go to work on Dan. He's not so tough after all. He just acts tough.
How right you are.
Back at Seacliff, there is still no word from Joan and her escort, Ken Arthur. In fact, no word from Paul since he raced out to the beach to join the searching police. And Father Barber and Claudia and Nicholas just sit and wait and wait and sit.
Nicky, if that phone doesn't ring pretty soon with some word from Paul, I think I'll go out of my mind.
Easy, old girl.
It would be much less of a strain if we had gone with him.
Oh, see here, there was no point in that. There's nothing we could have done.
It seems to me that we've been under some kind of stress for weeks on end. All that with Clifford and now this. And we thought we were going to have such a peaceful summer.
Come here, Claudia.
Yes, there it is, the phone, Nicky.
Yes, my dear, I've got it right here. Hello. Yes, Paul. What?
What did he say?
Wonderful.
He's found her?
Well, just a second, Paul. Let me tell them. Paul has Joan.
Oh,
Huh?
she's all right?
Yes, Claudia, completely unharmed.
Why, yours now. Wonderful,
Oh,
wonderful.
yes.
Tell me, Paul, where did you... Oh, of course.
Can I talk to her, Nicky? Let me have the phone.
Oh, just a second, Claude. I'm trying to listen to Paul.
Oh, well, is Joan there with him?
I'm sorry, Paul. I can't hear a word. Claudia's talking to me and... All right, fine.
Just tell him I want to talk to
Now,
her.
hurry on and blessings on you.
Nicky,
Bye-bye.
what did he say, Nicky?
He's bringing her home?
Where was she all this time?
Here, one at a time. Wait a minute.
Sorry, but I'm so excited. Nicky, darling, can't you talk faster?
Yes, in heaven's name, man, speak up. Did you or did you not say that Joan is safe and with Paul?
Exactly. Be here in 5 minutes or less.
And that boy, that grease monkey.
He's taken his car and he's on the way to his own home.
And I hope he stays there from now on.
Well, we can't condemn him until we get the facts. We can at least give him the benefit of the doubt.
And it's mostly doubt as far as I'm concerned.
But, Nicky, where were they? What did Paul say? Why didn't you phone or send word or something?
Exactly.
I don't know any more than you do of the details. Paul said he was in a hurry to get Joan home and that he'd tell us all about it when he got here.
You didn't talk to Joan?
No, Paul said she was dressing.
Nicky, what?
Did you say dressing?
Well, that's easily explained. You see, there was something that we didn't tell you when Paul got that phone call. At that time, all the police knew was that they'd found the car.
But you told us that.
But what I didn't tell you was that they'd also found Ken and Joan's clothes at Flyshaker Pool.
What?
And the first thing Paul asked about was that they'd gone through the tunnel that runs from the pool under the highway to the beach. People who go swimming down there often do that on a nice night.
You mean they had gone out to swim in the ocean?
Oh, I don't know. Paul didn't say. That's what crossed our minds. And we were afraid they might have been caught in a riptide or something like that.
Nicky, drowned?
My dear, they didn't drown. They're safe and sound. I'm simply saying that Paul and I thought of that, and we believed the wise thing to do was not to disclose their part of it until we knew for sure. As it turned out, we were right. At least you and Father Barber were saying that were.
Treated like children and in my own house.
So, see here, sir. Best intentions and all that.
Well, I'm glad that you and Claudia are feeling so lighthearted about all this.
But, Dad, aren't you?
That she's not hurt, certainly, but I still would like to have explained to me what she was doing out all night long and why we had no word from her. If she went out to the beach and swam, why were her clothes left all night in the locker room at the pool?
Well, who knows? Maybe the pool was locked when they finished swimming on the beach and they couldn't get back in to dress.
But they could have gone back to the car and driven home in their bathing suits at the very least.
Dad, must you give the worst implication to everything Joan does?
And besides, Father Barber, Paul seemed very happy, so there must be some explanation.
Yes. Paul's inclined to be very easily satisfied where Joan is concerned, I'm afraid.
Now, Dad.
Hello?
Oh, Claudia. Claudia, I'm so glad to see you.
Darling.
Got a kiss for me, too?
Oh, yes, Nicky.
Are you all right, Joan?
Oh, I'm a little weary. Hello, Grandfather.
And where do you pretend to have been all night?
She's all in, poor kid. She's had a night of it.
What was that crack, Grandfather?
Never mind, Joan.
Oh, well.
Claudia and Father Barber know about the clothes found in the lockers. Go on from there.
You did leave the pool and go through the tunnel to the beach?
Yes, it was early and a beautiful moon.
Yes, I know. Nicky and I commented on it coming from the Sky Ranch early this morning.
Oh, I'm sorry, Claudia. I didn't mean to cause all this fuss and worry. Really, I didn't.
I know, darling.
But what happened? In heaven's name, what happened?
Well, I know it sounds silly and stupid, but anyway, we started walking along the beach, and it was so nice and warm, we kept on walking for, I don't know, a couple of miles, I guess. Anyway, we walked down to where the beach stops and the cliffs rise up to the Skyline Boulevard. You know the place?
Yes.
Well, Ken asked if I'd ever seen the caves and the cliffs there. I hadn't, so we rounded a point and started to climb up under the cliffs.
At 9 or 10 o'clock at night?
Well, I said it was silly.
We've all done silly things, even your grandfather. Go on.
Well, we finally got up on a ledge, and it was a wonderful sight in the moonlight. We stood and watched a ship slipping along the water going out to sea. I don't know how long we stayed there, just looking out and talking. Maybe an hour. It still wasn't awfully late. I got to thinking that Paul might be worried, so I said we ought to go back to Flyschecker and get our clothes and get home.
Oh, I see what happened.
What? Go on, Joan.
Well, suddenly we came back to Earth, and there were the waves pounding in against the cliffs right underneath us. Golly, I was scared, and so was Ken.
Of course, the tide had come in.
You've been trapped on a ledge on the beach all night?
And if you don't think it was cold toward morning in those swimsuits.
Yes.
Well, there was nothing we could do. We couldn't go down, and it was impossible for us to climb up, so... Well, we just had to sit there, that's all.
Oh, what a terrible night. Darling, you must be dead.
Joan, why don't you run upstairs, take a nice hot bath, and then get a good sleep, huh? Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
That's a wonderful idea, and I'll bring you some hot breakfast when you're tucked in.
Oh, Keen. Now that I've told Paul how sorry I am it happened, I hope you and Nicky realize it, too.
Of course, darling.
Quiet.
Yes.
Nothing like it'll ever happen again, I can tell you that.
Well, all's well, and all the rest of it.
What an experience.
A valuable experience, I hope.
What do you mean, Dad?
Now I hope you've learned your lesson, Claudia, and will get that girl up to the Sky Ranch as fast as you can.
You've just heard Chapter 7, Book 71 of One Man's Family, written, produced, and transcribed under the direction of Carlton E. Morse. Chapter 8, entitled A Very, Very Tough Stepfather Indeed, will come to you next week at this same hour. One Man's Family comes to you from California.
This is NBC, the national broadcasting company.